This time, I invite you to come to my native country with me to study the social film called I, Daniel Blake by Ken Loach. The film is minimal. You could even say it's filmed in a documentary style. No music, for example, interrupts or accompanies the images, apart from the waiting music right at the beginning on the telephone. A kind of intrusive sound and in a way ironic. Maybe Ken Loach wanted the viewer to focus on the characters. He did say so in an interview that his wish was to put forward the characters' complexity. The spectator therefore crosses the threshold and enters the intimacy of the main characters' lives, Danielle, Katie and her children, and follows their stories deep into the hellish image of bureaucracy for one and the survival mode for the others. In a very tragic context, there is, however, a beautiful metaphor of the heart. The heart of the story is the human being, and the human being who is the hero of the story suffers from a heart condition. His illness of the heart does not make him less human. On the contrary, from beginning to end, Daniel Blake wears his heart on his sleeve, expressing his emotions and his state of mind freely, innocently. He talks lovingly of his departed wife and says she had a big heart. Sadly, Daniel's big heart will cease to beat at the end of the film. He did fight and persevere, but just as the verdict was going to be in his favor, his heart gives his final beat and Daniel's life ends. His heart has stopped beating, but it will make many other hearts beat on. At his funeral, called a pauper's funeral, Katie, his friend, the daughter he actually never had, reads the text he had handwritten to plead in his favor to obtain unemployment money. This text, written from the heart, is the last words of the film, and it echoes in the viewer's mind. He says, "I'm a man," reference to human beings in general and reinforcing the idea of dignity. "I'm a citizen," reference to every man's rights. Nothing less, nothing more. He's asking for dignity and respect. This film highlights the story of a tragic hero, the loss of dignity, self-respect, and the despair that comes from this mighty fall. Daniel is a carpenter and very proud of his trade. The work he does with his hands is emphasized throughout the whole film, for example with the fish that he carves. But the British bureaucratic system literally reduces him to nothing. Many errors or faults of modern society are pointed at in this film with a somewhat political impact. For example, the lack of jobs, regardless the age. Daniel, his young neighbor China, who goes into counterfeit to earn a bit more cash. Katie, who is desperately in the need for money. In order to survive, she ends up selling her own body. The administration with the British Job Centre, the long waits, the absurdity of the dealing with the different cases, the inconsistencies and the problem of computer illiteracy. Everything is computerized nowadays, but nothing is put in place in order to help those who are not equipped or who don't have a clue how to use a computer. Also, the growing gap between the rich and the poor. The film was shot at Newcastle, and the views shot in the streets demonstrate this gap. Indeed, Daniel steps out of the job centre and the shops surrounding him are luxury brands. Like in many big cities, poverty coexists with wealth. The choice of Newcastle was justified by Ken Loach for the accent. Indeed, the accent is representative of the working class, highlighting this contrast. Poverty is also shown with Katie and her children, forced relocation, acts of despair caused by the system. Danielle tagging the job centre's wall and Katie selling her body, etc. So following the image of the three-legged dog that we catch a glimpse of near Katie's council house, Danielle embodies all the injustice brought on by a crushing system. Several scenes are remarkable for their striking realism. The first scene, with no images, with the telephone conversation between Danielle and a person working at the job centre, lack of communication. When Katie, out of hunger, desperately opens the can of beans, or whatever she opens, at the food bank. Mutual assistance. Daisy knocks on Danielle's door and talks to him through the letterbox. People's reactions in the street when Danielle tags the wall, and many more. This film deeply moved me by its realism. It is profoundly tainted by Britishness. It's a social and humanist film with a strong fighting spirit that can make one's heart beat even stronger. Thank you very much for listening to me, and see you soon.